Hi guys, quick update here for YouTube. It's Wednesday here, 6th of September 2023. Hope everyone's doing great. If you want to join the group, you just go through the Teachables website. We are eventually going to come off Teachables. I understand that they're charging taxes. That's all coming from them and not from ourselves here at Financial Freedom. So if you want to avoid that, you can just pay via crypto. Message me through the Facebook page, and we do have a discounted plan for those who want to join for 3 months. And that's the case with any of the courses that we have here. So we are eventually going to move out of this platform, but for right now, that's what we'll be using for at least the next year. Now, we're going to be jumping back and forth here between Bitcoin and the S&P. S&P very quickly. Longer term, we feel we are going to make new highs. We feel it's an ending diagonal, and there's a chance we could get up to around, I'd say about 6,500 in basically a rising wedge, or what we call an ending diagonal, right? This will take another couple of years, not months or weeks or days, years to play out. 2025, going into 26, once the 10-year yield is above 10%, mortgage rates at about 15% probably, well, at least 10% on the 20 and 30 year, then we're getting very concerned. S&P's not going to get much above 7,000, but technically we are still in a secular bull market, albeit it's the end stage of a bull market. Extended wave fives usually end in an ending diagonal, following by which point we're going to have a very, very quick, very sudden, very sharp, more than likely ABC correction that will be near vertical, which will go at least as an absolute minimum. I mean, I think it takes out 666, but as an absolute minimum, it's completely valid to enter the territory of the previous correction, which was the 08, well, the 00 to the 08 correction. So as absolute minimum, we're going to do something like this. Obviously, we're still years away from that. The real crash is not here for a couple of years, because we need to get everyone FOMO'd into the S&P, which as of right now we haven't done. So that's the long-term count. Short term then. Short term, we have been calling for a multi-week, multi-month correction since the start of last month, right? I still believe we are in that correction. I don't feel we've gone low enough, right? Corrections are either price or time or both. To me, that looks like an ABC. We could bottom here at 4273. Of course, that could just be a W. Then we draw out the X, then another Y, bit of a fake little trap there, and then we go high. Ultimately, whatever the S&P is doing, technically it's still a buy the dip market. I just don't think it's a buy the dip right now. I'm not convinced this is enough of a correction, because we're saying all-time new highs, right? We're saying that's the eventual target, somewhere up here at 5,500. That's a huge move in the S&P. So how do we get that kind of effect? Well, we know cause precedes effect. We are basically reaccumulating, building the cause, ready for the next effect. 1 month is not enough cause. 2.5 months going into mid-October, that's definitely enough cause. So there is still a very real possibility we could make all-time new highs before the end of the year. And we are so far 5 weeks into this correction. I just think we have to go a little bit more, make it look a little bit more proper here in terms of Elliott. Right now, it doesn't really look like a very good X, does it? I mean, it doesn't really have the right look. So having the right look is a rule of Elliott. This doesn't look as though it wants to go all-time new highs. If we drag this out vertically, horizontally, we're going to go higher. I still think S&P can easily get to the ES gap at around 4,300, I believe it is, and around 42. Retest some of this. The 200-day moving average is slowly creeping up. If you just pull it up here, I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense to do a little fake bear test off the 200-day, break it for a couple of days, get people nice and bearish, and then we can go higher. And the 200-day, well, it's coming in right here. So, we could easily hit this 200 here, because that'll slowly creep up. By the end of September, we're basically hitting that. And if we do a fake break, like here and here, that's enough to get people bearish and convinced that Michael Burry 12666 count is correct. Obviously, it's not correct, although in 2 years it will be. But that's the thing, everyone's right. It's just about timing, isn't it? Timing is more important than being right or wrong, I suppose. And then obviously we're going to do a fake test of that, then go higher. So still too early to say that the correction is over on the S&P. Now, with Bitcoin, it's leading the S&P by quite a lot in terms of time. Bitcoin's correction I deem to have been over not last month at the end of July, but actually here in April. This still looks like a larger ABC or a WXY. Now, technically, on the futures, we have actually made a new low, which I think is relevant. This was the August low, so I think we've satisfied, on Bitcoin at least, everything that we needed to say that we've bottomed. And the reason is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, that doesn't mean, you just go all in, definitely bottomed. It doesn't help, though, that the S&P, I'm calling for another 5 to 10% correction from its current level. So obviously, if Bitcoin is still a risk asset, which we deem it to be, albeit there's a bit of a lag and it's been slightly disjointed from the S&P the last year or so, that would stand to reason that potentially the correction is not over. I think we're very close. There's probably a lot of people dollar cost averaging into here. Probably not a bad idea. Eventually, we're going to come out of this correction and go bullish. I've still not seen, in terms of positioning and sentiment mainly, enough bearish headlines, though, to really justify the low. Usually, around the lows in Bitcoin, things get very, very bearish. The fear and greed basically moves well less than 30 and probably into the teens, 20 or 30. The Pure multiple really drags off. The net unrealized profit and loss, we tend to get very, very bearish down here on very panicky kind of headlines, and it tends to be a V reversal. I'm not convinced we've kind of had that yet, but technically you can easily read that as the end of the correction, as the ABC over. Obviously, the rest of the market isn't really joining in, but all I'm saying is technically Elliott wave has been satisfied there. Now, technically, once again, I can continue to use the word technically. You could still read that as a 1-2. So as long as these lows hold, on the futures anyway, the low in Bitcoin is in. And that is indisputable. No one can really argue with that. The minute this low gets taken out, even by 5 ticks, because obviously 1 tick is 5 points on the Bitcoin futures, isn't it, right? It's not like the ES where it's 0.25. So if this gets taken out even by 5 ticks, then we have to come up with alternate accounts. But technically, you could read that as a 1-2, 1-2. Obviously, it doesn't look very good, and I get it, and it looks quite choppy and a bit messy. But all I'm saying is, technically speaking, you could say that the lows are in, because we have made 5 waves down. Now, how are we going to know that the lows are in? Well, what level do we have to break to be absolutely sure pretty much that the lows are in? Well, obviously it's 28k. The minute we break above here, this presumed wave 4 high, you have to say that the lows are in. The minute we break above here, 27.1, you have to say it's looking likely that the lows are in, but ultimate confirmation will be here. Now, if this gets taken out, obviously, wave 2 can't cross below wave 1, can't it? Below the wave 1 starting point. What does that mean? Well, we have to come up with some alternate accounts. Well, of which there are 2, probably. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 is down here. And this 5 waves that I can count into here, that's just wave 1. That's just wave 1, and then we do this. Now, this would satisfy a little bit more bearishness. It would also satisfy with the fact that none of the crypto stocks, Coinbase in particular, under no circumstances is suggesting a Bitcoin rally, because I consider Coinbase a gigantic leading indicator to this entire market. Technically, Coinbase leads everything, including the stock market, really, but it's a very, very important stock, and we've been all over Coinbase 3 or 4 times, well over 300% gains without leverage since the start of the year. Multiple swing trades in Coinbase. Fantastic. That and Tesla are the only 2 stocks needed for day trading purposes, frankly. This would be the count, that this wave 5 is going to drag it out into here. Then you can say, right, A, B, extended C. Does it look a bit strange? Yes. Will that get people nice and bearish? Probably. Do we get the capitulation low? Yes, then we're going to go higher. The target, by the way, is 44k. Once we come out of here, the target's 44k. Now, what is the alternate count? Well, alternate to that, I would say it's a WXY. So this is then a 3 wave into here. This is now an X. And now we're going to go into a Y. So this might just break down in basically a 535. Once again, it's similar kind of count, isn't it, right? So the difference between a C wave, which is 5 waves, and a WXY is that this breaks down in 3. 5. This is now forming a 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Also gets you to these same kind of ranges. Both these 2 counts, I would say, worst case scenario, we go to the gap. There'll be too many buyers at the gap because it's too obvious. Everyone's going to be buying there. I don't think it gets down that low, as I've said before. We have law of diminishing returns. So there's law of diminishing losses, right? We used to make 300% in a day and correct 80%, 380. Now we're only moving up 100% since the lows of last year. So it's no longer an 80% drawdown we have to get used to. Now we have to be happy with 20, 30% and the market's going to turn. Yeah, that's why each of these have only turned at relatively shallow corrections. Law of diminishing returns means law of diminishing losses. We know this is going on in crypto. We know it's no longer the same exponential growth as it has been before. Anyway, that would be a more complex WXY. Suffice to say, it still gets you a new low. Fine, I accept that. Breaks this low, gets more bearishness, and kind of fits in with the S&P. S&P being right, we're not really over with this correction. S&P, the C waves tend to be quite deadly, tend to be quite vertical, quite panicky. Kind of makes sense going into October. And then we get the low. S&P, Q4 rally, Bitcoin, Q4 rally. So it's a time to be watching this very, very carefully. Good time to be joining into the group. Do we have a time of doing video and confirmation of a reversal? Absolutely not. There's zero confirmation. That might change 2 seconds after I release this video. Right now, there's zero volume coming in, zero green candles. The trend is definitely down. All I'm saying is we need to be looking for that turn. We can't just accept or expect, like a gigantic 40% collapse. Just not going to happen, okay? Just not going to happen. Not anymore, it's not. So you make less gains, you're going to have less in terms of losses. And then more longer term, we don't feel it's a bull market. We feel it's a bear market rally correction. And basically, we think that's an A or a W. We think we're forming the B, of which we're very, very close. And then we're going to have a C. It's as simple as that. And the target is 44K. Let's just pull up 44K here on the futures. So let's now do some reverse analysis. We have the target 44,000. How low do we have to go to get a 1-to-1? Right? So we're doing reverse targets here. Right? So I'm starting from the target and I'm working back to figure out how low does it have to go to get to a 1-to-1. Also, that lines up with the 50. So that it seems a bit low, but it's interesting how it comes up to around 21,000. That would be one hell of a, and that comes up with a gap. So assuming equality between the first leg, let's just tighten that up, and the 50% fib, for which we know the algo target's 37K, we should go as low as, well, basically the gap. So anywhere between 28 and 21, yet the market's here. So that would suggest that no, the lows are not in. So now let's compare this. Well, we're back to the 2 counts again. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, massively extended 5, a bit of a wedge, or it's a WXY. I suppose the other way to count it is that's an A, that's a B, that's a C, D, E, right? So we have 3 counts. I suppose they're all very, very similar though, aren't they? I don't really like this count as much. I prefer WXY, but that suggests another couple more lows, right? D technically has to go into here. I don't think it will though. It'll probably just bleed down lower. So that kind of gets you into here. If we get as low as 21,000, that is very, very bearish. I can imagine a lot of long holders who are holding from 15K will basically capitulate those lows, when really they should be dollar cost averaging. Now, let me just work out one more target. Let's say it's a WXY, right? So let's now take a 1-to-1. This corrected obviously quite heavily. It's about 50% of the whole move. 1-to-1 gets you here. So 1-to-1 and the WXY gets you here, right? So there you go. So clearly, at time of doing video, there's no confirmation of a reversal. Technically, you could count this as the low. The minute this low, however, gets taken out, then we have to go to these more bearish counts, which aren't uber bearish, but they are suggesting anywhere from, let's say, 13% to another 18.96%. That actually goes very well with the fact that Coinbase isn't ready, GBTC isn't ready, and the S&P isn't ready. Once all of that is done, let's assume that we've got this right, then we're ready for the huge rally right into the halving. So there's a huge rally coming up here, definitely going into the halving. I don't think we get to 69k. I don't think that's possible. I'm not reading that as a 1-2, by the way. These kind of moves are over because there's no more monopoly money to be handed out. You know, these kind of days are over. There will be a day when those monopoly checks start printing again, and I suppose in that scenario, maybe Bitcoin will make 100k. But I happen to think we're in a very long-winded correction. Yeah, very, very long. In fact, we're just here long enough for the S&P to make a new high, 6666, and then we're going to end the world as it turns out. And Neo has to make its way over to Machine City, plug into the Matrix, defeat Agent Smith, and then we're going to reset the Matrix, and Skynet gets turned on technically. So that's it, really. Hopefully I've not confused everyone. I think we're ready. I think everyone should be waiting for a turn here, right? There's probably people dollar cost averaging here thinking that the lows are in. I mean, you're getting a good 15% discount. Is it peak bearishness? Is it peak fear? Is the S&P over? Is Coinbase suggesting Bitcoin's going to rally imminently from here? No. The answer is no to all of those. If we get as low as 22, 21k, I can imagine a lot of people selling these lows, and basically we're then just going to have another one of these, another 5 or 3 wave impulse, and then we've got the high. So all I've done, copy and paste, and the target's 44k. I've done another target which gets us to 50k. I mean, 50k obviously will make a great headline prior to the halving. 50k gets us as low as, if we reverse analyze that, well, that gets you just as low as here then, 23.85. So that's what I'm saying, right? So it comes down to what your target is. If your target's 50k, assuming a 1-to-1, we're only going to go as low as here. Either way, it's time to be looking for that turn here within this range, as low as 20.9, as high as, let's say, just the low here, 25. This is a great time to be looking for that trade, looking to go long. It's too late to be short, too late to be bearish. None of the altcoins, I think, are forming amazing lows. Salgado probably here and there. I think there's a good chance of a Q4 rally here in crypto. We just need a little bit more bearishness. But yes, assuming you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 count, the lows are already in. But absolutely, there's no confirmation. I mean, for that to be impulsive, it's looking less and less likely. But technically, these lows have not been taken out. As long as these lows hold, you could argue, Elliott wave wise, the lows are in. But that's it. It's just Elliott wave, which is suggesting that the lows are already in. If not, the minute this gets taken out, even by 5 ticks, that's it. Just 1 point on the futures. We then have to go to these other counts, which basically end the correction, and then it's over. And then we're going to go 44k. There's a gigantic rally coming in. I mean, that's a near double, isn't it? So that's a near double, right? I mean, that's anywhere from a double. So let's assume 44k. How low does it have to go to double? Well, obviously, it's going to be 22k, isn't it? Great time to be joining into the group. We're looking at the best coins to be buying here, and we're analyzing this very, very closely twice a week. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Like I said, if there's issues with taxes, just pay via crypto. You can pay via Tether or USDC, whichever one works better. Just message me through the Facebook page, and then we can go from there. I don't think it's time to be uber bearish here. A little bit more fear and panic on the S&P. I think we're going to be in for a turn here within the next 6 weeks on crypto too. It's just a matter of when. And looking for that pre-halving rally.